about making art with those who make it. I ask my guests what is important to them in art, what moves them, shocks them, inspires them. We discuss ongoing projects and initiatives. We talk about experiences. We talk about here and now. And we also speculate about possible future scenarios.
I need time to find my mind, find my place.
Good morning, hi, welcome to another episode and listen to another conversation of the sztuki, robi podcast about art. As my usual listeners, you may notice that this conversation is not in Polish. It is the first conversation ever in this podcast in English. So let's do this. Let's see what will come out from this. Today, my guest is Victoria Fard. Her work and research integrates art, technology, and digital fabrication. She incorporates algorithms to generate materially feasible architecture and spatial experiences. She uses digital fabrication methods such as industrial 3D printing and CNC milling. I don't know what does it mean. I will ask. Her work has been exhibited in Times Square for Midnight Moment, the Outernet London, and displayed at AURORA Biennale in Dallas, Art Basel Miami, Frieze LA, the Ontario Science Centre, Constellationsde Metz, just to name few places and few exhibitions. Her digital artworks hope to connect people through visual and immersive forms of storytelling. Victoria holds a Master of Architecture from the University of Toronto. Good morning. Hi, Victoria.
Good morning. Hello.
Is it your first time in Poland?
Yes, it is. Yes, I know it is. And it's been amazing, honestly, so far.
Have you had the chance to sightsee, to walk around, to just feel the vibe of the city? Because Victoria is obviously in Warsaw. I'm in Krakow. So I'm asking about Warsaw. Have you had the chance to walk around, to feel the vibe?
Yes, when actually my sister and I, when we landed, we went to the hotel. As soon as we settled in, we went for a walk to the old town, old city. And then we just never stopped walking. It's like so beautiful, even if it was dark, because it was sunset going dark. And even if whatever we saw, it's like really beautiful. There's so much history, like in Warsaw, and like even just like walking the streets, you could just feel a sense of like it's such a unique place. And I can see why it's like truly special. But yes, we love. And last night we went again yesterday. After our first event, we went again to the old city and we're just like walking everywhere.
That's great. That's great to hear you have fun here. So let's talk more about art. And we obviously will also talk about art that we will show here in Poland, in Warsaw. But let's start with something else. Listen, everyone. To have a full experience, I advise you to check out Victoria's art before our conversation or after. Obviously, I cannot force you to do this, but I believe you can have way more immersive and way more interesting experience when you listen to a conversation with the visual artist, when you have a visual of what said artist is doing. So if you wish, check out Victoria's website, and without further ado, let's go with the questions. Victoria, when I first started exploring your work, the question that immediately came to mind was about architecture. If I understand correctly, your artistic background is in architecture. What led you to study this topic, this part of art? Also, knowing what you do now, I'd love to hear more about when and why you started exploring digital art.
Well, that's a great question. Since I was young, I've always loved art, and like creating things. But I think as I got older, I know like my brain and what is truly helpful is structure. So I think for me, architecture truly brought structure in how I think, how I do things. Um, and Because with art, you're truly free to do what you like. You can express yourself and not have to think of, oh, this door has to be 2 meters or the stairs has to go up 6 inches, and things like that. But I think with architecture, it really brought like a process of how to do things. like with process, with different methods. And first is like conceptual thinking, and then you develop your concept, and then you do testing, or um, and then you do like little models to then see how it is to view like a building, a space. And then you start construction drawings, and then you do, so it's like different steps, you can say, different steps to achieve something that's functional, but also something that people actually be in, that has to be, um, that will be built. And so I think for me, architecture is a great way to bring structure to my mind and how I do things. So you can just say it, develop like a backbone, like our skeleton. So I think that was like what architecture brought. And in terms of art, how that came about was during COVID. Because during COVID we were all at home, and I was still doing architecture then. But I remember when we were this is in Canada, there was an exhibition, like a little festival that usually happens every year. And then they were calling people to say they have an open call, but all of it'll be the first time they will have an online exhibition. So you host it in so I hosted it in my website, and it's like it's the same, it's like creating like a solo exhibition, but it's all online. So for everyone to experience. So it all started then. So me and my sister, I did like a few pieces, and then she wrote mini stories to go alongside it. Because the first one was called Reminisce, and it was about like my heritage, my culture, because I really think that it's so funny because it was also the beginning, but I always find value in remembering our roots, like where I came from, because what makes me me is my how I grew up, my parents, the countries I've lived in. And so I tried to express that like in art. And my sister wrote the stories, and then I presented it. And then we won the People's Choice Award for that exhibit. And I think since then, things slowly, everything became more global with like around that time in the world. And that's how I sort of to create and apply what I've learned in architecture to then design like experiences for people, but in a more like in a digital sense, an atmosphere, so that people could experience it wherever they were, at the time. So it was a way for me to connect with people then, because that was the way we could only do it.
So if I understand correctly, you started making art because you couldn't make architecture back then in COVID, yeah? I mean, I know it's very simple way of explaining this, but it's interesting that you found something new when you couldn't make what you wanted to do anymore. You couldn't do what you wanted to do anymore.
Yes, it was sort of on pause. So while things were on pause, I still wanted to do, it was like trying to create, still continue to create, but now through art, which was amazing because then you could build worlds that you imagine, that you don't have to think of like how wide they should be, or someone actually cannot fit there. Like you have to
The
make
ceiling will be
yes.
too low, it will collapse.
Yes. So then it was
No
like
rules then.
yes. It was like it was more, but it's funny, there is rules, but it's only to whatever rule you want to make it to be. So it's like constraints. So there's always like it's like a freedom to create, but then it's also, what are you creating? What is it I want people to experience then? So maybe it comes with like different themes. So everything should like it's like, for example, mixing colors. There sometimes you want to mix I want it to be warm. So suddenly don't put like blue or something, because everything is like orange or like yellow. So but it's this is my perspective, what I'd like it to be. But everyone has their own form of expression, so they can mix blue and red or anything. But yes.
Before the COVID, before pandemic, you are at the university, you studying architecture. Have you ever thought about making art? Or was it like something really new in your life when you started to do it?
So in my undergraduate, I actually did my two majors were visual arts, like fine arts, and architecture. But then when I had to pursue it, when you decide like professionally, because then I have to license as an architect, things like that, I have to have masters. So then after I did visual arts was like the one it's like, oh, it's really fun. I really enjoyed doing art. But then when it came to what I was going to pursue, I did architecture. So I've always really loved art and like creating. I think that's why even in architecture, I started to do digital fabrication because it was like also an artistic way to like work with models, different geometries. And so um, I still did art, but in my undergraduate, and then I pursued architecture more formally during my master's. So then, but to answer your question, no, I never imagined I would um do art the way I'm doing it now, designing it for people to experience. But even like I was so, I honestly, I'm so grateful to even be in Warsaw, like doing this, I'm able to share it here where people are open to experiencing it. So no, I never imagined it. I'd be here. Even it's really, it's a wonderful thing.
It's so interesting and so amazing because very often in my conversation, we grasp something. So I don't know. It's for me, it's like kind of magic when someone is saying that, oh, I never thought I would be doing this. It was like I started to do something and then I just got caught up in this world and this is what I'm doing now. It's so amazing to listen how it came to be. Okay, you also started talking about building new worlds. And as I wrote to you before when we were exchanging emails, when I see your art, I think you still are an architect, but in the different world.
Oh.
So it's very interesting. And do you still do architecture, like, the very in real life creating buildings or something like that? Or is it something that right now is in the background and maybe it will come back to you?
I still do it. I still apply it. But more often I design things like facade for houses, and then working with different materials. So it's more specific, um, to it's like making art but in architecture, like in architecture world where I have to think about how to manufacture it, think about the materials, what to put together. So I think it really it goes side by side. But as I do this, it's also through people who are familiar with my work. Even through friends. I remember during COVID, she was like, "Oh, she was working at the firm, and she was like, oh, Victoria may have something like interesting to um to work on." It was this project, but it was for a facade for a house. And it's been developed and it's now built. But I still do it. I still do it on the side, but now I'm more focused on like different exhibitions. But yeah, so it's still happening, like a side by side. And I think actually for architecture, it is, I've always loved designing spaces for people. I think that's why the projects I'm worked on usually were like restaurants or like hotels, but it was more smaller, intimate spaces that when someone enters a room, I think like how would they feel? What would be designed there that people would not only be comfortable or not just feel like, okay, I'm sheltered because I have a roof on my head, but maybe there can be something in the ceiling, or different lighting. So it was all of combining those elements to then make an experience. And I think that was then during COVID. I think with that mentality, it's like for the worlds that I make is what I want the viewers or the audience to experience when they walk into this world. They will recognize certain creatures, they will see nature, they will see so it was designing that. But again, it was also like from different inspirations to combine into like a one world. So yes, so it's so, and with architecture, I guess, like even with the tools, I'm able to like experiment more and explore to make these experiences.
Okay, so let's now dive into the methods, the techniques. how you do it. Because you know, the name of my podcast is all about making art. So here we are very interested in the techniques, processes, and creative methods. So could you take us on a tour? Can we take a little walk around your workshop? Maybe it's just you by the desk with your computer. Doesn't matter. Let's take a walk around the desk. What tools do you work with? Where do you begin? And what are the key steps in your process? I also have a follow-up questions, but maybe let's just pause here about, where do you begin? What are the key steps in your process?
So it all usually it begins. I think you're right. If you imagine a setting, I'm in a room. It can be any room around the house, and then so I have a laptop, but I actually have a desktop. So when I do renderings and final animations, I use the powerful one, because then it saves. It's more speedy and it's very helpful. But to say when I develop things in my programs, like in my laptop, it begins with fragments of like memories, something I imagined maybe when I was going for a walk in the park, and then or even just like looking at the surroundings, and then from there I build like layer by layer into the world, like different landscapes. Maybe there are structures like Milagro, and then vegetation, and then combining all of those. And if you and hope like within the world, exploring different angles and perspectives of how like someone like would view it or how I experience it. And then through this it allows the world to sort of take shape organically. And then after that, so you imagine it black and white, then start to add colors, different materials, different textures, and then this would sort of give us an idea of the atmosphere of the piece. And then I do lots of tests. So there's a lot of trial and error of like, oh, this goes with this, and then actually no, that doesn't look so nice. You have to go back. So it's a lot of like doing some tests, and then um once sort of the general um uh, structures and elements are there, I then do the details. So then when I zoom in to like certain elements, it's like detailed. And then so adding the different colors. And then after the detail, then now it's sort of like you hope like there's emotions that comes with when I look at certain things that I want to share, what it will convey. And I think it's more of like an iterative process of like doing multiple tests, multiple tries of like the design. And then so it's like a mix of like intuition and like designing as like I'm designing something.
Do you do it all in the computer, or do you use some other tools? Like, I don't know, you take a photo of something and you put this photo in the program, or is it all created in some program by you?
Oh, it's all inside. It's all in the computer. So it's all like in Rhino. That's the name of the program. It's my architecture program. So it's like if you're in architecture school, that's what we learned. It's funny. I still remember the first time. Maybe it was over like 12 years ago now, when we had to shift from after maybe less than that, maybe 10 years. We had to shift from drafting. In undergrad, we drew everything and like your plan section, elevations. And then when you went to my master's, you're like, okay, you have to learn this. We're going to do everything in CAD. And I remember I'm like, I didn't even know how to make a circle. They're like, you have to make a sphere, and then you have to combine it, make different forms. And I remember it was so hard. I had very kind, kind friends and classmates who would help each other learn it. But it's funny how over time, because it's like delving into this, learning more about it as I try things. That yes, like I really enjoy working within that program, and it was very helpful. And also recently I've worked with 3ds Max. So yeah, so it's different programs and like combining it to then make one form, but it's all in the computer.
You said it's a trial and error, trial and error. Is it like you test some smaller parts of the world you're creating, or do you have like everything done and then you zoom in on some parts and you're like, okay, this needs some more work, this needs something else? or you start with, the parts, and then when you content with all the parts, you say, okay, I can now put it together.
So I do it actually in one big world, but I do both. So I do tests also when I do smaller, also because the files are so big. So it starts when there's a lot there, it starts to become so slow, and like just to move the mouse, I have to wait for like 5 minutes. So sometimes if you have ideas, you're like, oh my goodness. It's like, and then I don't want it to freeze because then it might it might not save. So it's really fun. So then sometimes I have to test it in another, like I have to pause it, save it, and then do a smaller sort of test run. In another, like opening another file, making something new, setting up something up. So then I make sure that I like how it looks like, and then I can put it in the main world. Also, when I say iterative process, it also takes months. It takes about maybe 5-6 months to make one world. And when I know I'm going to be working with like a new group or a new institution or partners, I develop the world more to make sure that it's something special, and suits the whatever we're trying to create. Like for example, here in Promenade Reverie, there's a lot of new things in the world that will be presented here. The ceiling was all new because here there's a ceiling. So then it was creating something new that's like a reverie world, but for the ceiling. So it's like it's there, but then it takes months to like a year sometimes to make just one world. Yes, so it's so each is like a hopefully
Wow,
unique.
it's very interesting because I believe that one could think that, okay, creating something in the computers are very advanced, so it will take like, one day to do something in a program and it's done.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to hear how long it takes to create the new world, even if you're using a computer, and when the work is finished. When do you feel it's like it's a feeling for you, or you look at it and you're like, okay, that's enough, no more? When do you say, okay, it's done?
No, I think it's a great question. I think some often I think you feel it. I think I do feel it when I think, okay, I think is this it? This is it. And then I call my family members. I'm like, I ask my sister, I show my mom. I'm like, okay, I think this is it. And then so we watch it together. It's when we go through it, the world, and you see, and wherever you look, there's something to see. I think it's that. I think you sort of sense it, and you'll be like, okay. So yeah, I think it's more of a feeling. Deadlines help too. You're like, okay, it has to be done now.
Okay, so it's all about deadlines. Let's be real.
Yes. But not really, actually. Some worlds I finished
Yeah.
before. Actually, I remember I was invited to present somewhere, and then what's funny, it's like I worked with like many different people. So sometimes I create. I remember at the very beginning, I'm just saying like, even like I'm just sharing even my journey. It's like they like disappeared. So then I started a world, and like I was doing something, and then that project no longer came into fruition. And so I already had worlds planned. So I already started it and had something. So it's like sometimes actually for me, I just create. I have them. I create them. They're not made for. It depends. If when I have commissions, then yes, it's made for something. We have a plan. We do it together. But then often I just like to, how someone just goes to the park and they paint. So sometimes I just have ideas and I make these worlds in advance, or when I can. Honestly, now it's like when I can, I really do my best to do it, to sit down, have a moment to create worlds. So it's really creating them. More so, the deadlines are just when there's specific types of screens. So, for example, because the world is there, but then now it takes maybe a few months to integrate it to match the different specifications, because then it has to be animated to do it. For example, the ceiling, and then this one is a very vertical screen, or this one's very wide. So then it's now matching it to suit whatever the specifications are. So those deadlines are like to match, to do tests, to make sure it's not blurry, so that it's like clear for people, or in like a high resolution. But in terms of the making the worlds, I think it's really very organic, because then I wouldn't show it if it's not finished, or if I didn't feel like that's the best it could be.
I have a feeling that we could spend an hour on each one of your works you presented around the world. But let's just take one also because I know it will be a part of this will be used in Promenada, and I hope it will be an interesting example for our listeners, because I would like to ask you about Milagro Payapa. Was it created like that? You had something already done, or you built it from scratch exactly for this moment? And this moment, I mean the Times Square for midnight moment.
So Payapa was the first world I ever made. That's Payapa. It was after Payapa, I did two side by side. They're two very different ones. It was called Celestia. Payapa was the first world I made. It was, I remember, world number 1. That's the folder of my folder name. And it was about sort of my roots. And I did it, it was after COVID. COVID was still there. It was maybe we were a year into, or 2 years into COVID, a year or and a half or so. And that was about my roots and memories of childhood, really. I think I grew up in the Philippines. I was born there, so lots of islands, tropical, lots of different vegetation, coconut trees. But then at the same time, when you travel around Asia, you have, like in Japan, you can experience like fall and the different orange trees. And then also we have like little huts, like bahay kubos, where when you go to like the provinces or the islands, people always hang out there when it's nice weather, when you have siesta. And then it's like a familial place where you like just are with like family. And then so you see all of the fish, all of the animals there are inspired by growing up. So that was the first one I made. And then Times Square saw that, Payapa. And then Milagro came about. It was just inspired by New York, Times Square, because I knew, honestly, also working with them, they're one of the kindest people I ever worked with. They were so warm. And I think when you get to work with people like that, you're even inspired more. And I think I designed Milagro for Times Square. So it was doing, even the word milagro, it means miracle. So for me, it was like bringing nature into an urban setting. It's like architecture and nature combined. So it was my first world with structures and like a city, because I knew the site was Times Square. So it's inspired by all of the skyscrapers. And then when you look at Milagro, all of the animals, actually, it's like inspiration from, when you go to, when you see the watering holes in Africa, you see like the zebras, they come together. And then like there's different animals like flamingos, they all like rest and are like relaxed. That's where they get their sustenance and like water. So you'll see it's sort of that gathering together in that place. And so so Milagro was for Times Square, that I designed with that in mind, and it was for them. So inspired by them, the group. And
what Payapa means?
Payapa means peace. Yeah, so I think it's Payapa in Tagalog, like Filipino.
Yeah,
it's like
so that's
peace.
very interesting, because you did sort of mix and match. Yeah, you took something you created at the very beginning, and you created also something new. And as I assume I saw obviously your work in the internet, so you like put it into one world.
Yeah.
And how did it feel to see your work at that scale? Because it's obviously is much bigger than your computer.
Yes, no, for sure. I think for me, it was very surreal. Honestly, it was like I knew it was like a life-changing moment. It's really interesting because, like, when you look at something for so long on the screen and you look at it in the detail, but to see it in that scale is really amazing for me. But what was even more remarkable was to see people experience it and see it, whether it was, I think I was looking at them. Also, I'm actually grateful my family came with me, and every night we were in New York, we would go at like 11:30, we would start to walk towards Times Square, and there's so many people. I forgot how many people there were. I think before then I haven't been to New York in a long time. And it's like, it's very like intense. People are walking, people are like, and then they stop, and then everyone's so close together because you're trying to walk together. Like, oh my God, we don't want to miss it. But then it was like really, wonderful to see people who either they knew that there was midnight moment because it happens every month at midnight, and then there's some people who are there, to visit New York to look at all the different ads and screens in Times Square. So it was nice to see when everything like changed. It was just like the two worlds, and to see how people reacted to it. Because truly, I love making this, but I really love seeing people have joy or be like it's another form of like a expression, exploration, and what they think when they experience it.
You told us a lot about the experience of this exhibition of this work, and as I said in the introduction, you exhibited your art around the world. Is there any other exhibition or moment in your career that stands out as especially meaningful, or was it that one, or is it like each one is a meaningful experience for you?
I think definitely each one is a meaningful experience because it happened at different moments in my life. And each of it holds a story and, memories when you look back with this. So I think even not even to look far, like being here in Warsaw, it's like, wow, it's so, um, like it's unbelievable. Like, I can't, even when I found out I was going to be coming here and it's happening, I was like, wow. So even being here is so incredible. And like as I never imagined being able to share my work here, and now that it's here, I think it's really, for me, it's something special. Even meeting like people of Poland, people here, so far you're so the people I met, they're so friendly, they're so enthusiastic. Even the team that who we work together to create this experience for people. It's just been honestly so positive that even being here, I'm truly grateful. But again, I think in my life, each project, wherever it's been like a moment. And I think each has really been like a special experience, even if it is a different way. But because you have the same heart and same vision, it's like, yes, it just like comes together.
You work, if I understand correctly, when you build a world, you do it alone, by yourself alone, but you also collaborate with other artists and creators. How do you approach each collaboration, and what is important to you when you know you won't be working alone? That you have to incorporate some other points of view to your work?
I think it's always important to have an open mind, an open heart. Like I think for me, it's working with people. I'm thankful, like working with people when you have the same vision, heart, and ability. Like, you always do what you can to achieve the goal. When it's like a united thing, it's more like fluid when working together, because then you want to have the same, achieve like this experience. But I think it's also good to, make it as clear as possible for everyone what we try to create or what we'd like to build. So then this is where like doing architecture for some time. It's
So
like doing things in methods and process.
in other words, it's important to create a structure when you work with other
Yes,
people.
yes, because I think it's also because like for me personally, when I do something, I really try to do, to give my all, do my best. So, and I know it's the same with other. It's like to do more, um to do my best, but also to have like the spirit of like doing something like an excellence, so that to make like doing, like, for example, what to create. I'm so proud of everyone who's worked on this because it's really amazing. So it's like when working with people, I think it's important to make a plan, have structure. But I think that's all easy, and it comes innately when you're working with people who have the same heart and vision, because then with that, the ability, it just comes together really. And I think, yes, having structure, a plan, but also being open, because when things don't work, it means it doesn't work. So we have to make it work. That's why we do lots of testing. For example, like for the screens here, we have to make sure it's not blurry. So sometimes it's like, and each screen is different, because for example, they get different frame rate or different specifications. So when we do testing, when things don't work, we just have to do it again until it does, or see. So it's like solving a problem, but I think that's why it's like a process. So, it's hoping when you collaborate with people that you're going to go through the process together. And when we do that, it's like, there will be days where things don't work. There will be days when they work. And when it doesn't work, it's like, it's okay. We'll make it work. And then when it works, it's like, yay, it works now. So
Very happy day. And
yeah.
has it ever happened to you? Because what I understand is your worlds are very well constructed, checked, and you are, very careful with them. But has it ever happened that something happened on accident, or you thought, okay, this won't work, and then you saw it, you tested it, and it was like, okay, it's working. It's really good.
Do you mean like when it's in a space already, or when I'm designing in my computer?
Maybe when it's in the space already, when you thought something won't work, and then you see it in a space, and it's and it turns out it's working.
Oh, yes, actually. So for example, for the screens here in Promenada, we tested two different experiences. For one is like the full scale, and the other one is with the ceiling. And I think they both work, but it's like, what are we trying to create? Like, what feel? So there's one of the pieces, Reverie. It's also where the ceiling is as if it's like going, yes, as if it's like going down and when you're going up to the ceiling into the sky. So I think it's more like they both work, but then which one do we want to use to then have what feeling we want people to feel? So I think we did that, and then we went with what we wanted people to feel when they experience this certain world. So I think because it's also different when you see it like when you experience it in the space, because then, for example, if you're like surrounded like 360, you can go look around it, but sometimes it's just like half, or this one is like a wall to ceiling. So it's actually different when you see it in person. So that's why it's really fascinating.
Do you ever use? It will be like a crazy change of topics, because now I should, continue with what will happen in Warsaw. But I also have so many other questions. So let's mix and match. Do you ever use AI in your work?
Actually, no, not yet. No, I haven't. So far everything's been by hand. Um, I haven't got a chance to learn AI yet. Um, Maybe in the future I'd like to see, because the technology is there. I'd love to learn it, but right now I haven't. There's no AI in my work. They're all 3D models, and that's why they also take time. It's funny. I heard someone say, it was quite funny. He was like, why do something for 15 days if it can only take an hour to make?" Something like that, like with AI, or for example. But I think AI is also a remarkable thing. It's a remarkable tool. But I think I remember in architecture school, my thesis, because I do use like algorithms too, but I've always thought of using it as a tool. So I think with AI, it's also what we take, how we'd like to use it. Um, so, but I think it's again perspective of what you like to create, what it is you really want to do. But for me, so far, it's just been using 3D modeling, different geometries, and combining that maybe with like algorithms. It makes the process more efficient. Like it's like even like using 3D programs, for example, if you um for example, even like in Microsoft Word, you can do Control C instead of like right click, copy, paste, press five of these buttons, but you can just do Control C. So it's the same with like using algorithms or tools that can make it, instead of 10 steps, you do it in 3 steps. I think it's with AI, it's a really, I think the past months or past year or something, it's like exploded in
Yeah.
such a like big way. So I think in time, I'd love to learn that, because it makes like beautiful images, beautiful works, and it's I'm glad that there's different forms of expressions, and it's nice that artists are able to do that and use that to be more creative too. But at the same time, it's like thinking of how people like craftsmen, people who weave carpets, that's a beautiful form of art. Because and even that it takes time. I think that's why I think art is a form of expressing yourself, your who you are. And I think whatever way, however way people can do that, or a person or an artist can do that, I think that's really wonderful. So yes, but so far in my work, it's just been the 3D programs I use, and yes, like modeling, 3D modeling,
And
rendering.
this CNC milling, I forgot to ask about.
Oh,
So what is it? Before we jump to the Warsaw talk, to the Promenada and Warsaw, what is it as CNC milling?
oh, CNC milling. Okay. So CNC milling, it's like carving. So for example, you see sometimes like in buildings, they have like wavy elements of like usually concrete blocks and they put it in a building like tiles, for example. So CNC milling is just like imagine a big bed and then there's a tool like a drill. It's like a drill bit. And it's like like a screwdriver, for example, and it goes up and down, or you can code like a program to tell it what to do. So for example, if I want to carve a a face or something, or something that's like a so for example, you have a whole block of marble, and then you want the marble to have a certain shape, a certain look. You would tell the computer like how the drill bit should move, and then when you press like play, it will just do that continuously. But that is more like up and down 2D, 3D, like 2D. And then, but nowadays you have robotic arms that can also do like sort of milling. So then you program those arms to then, because then now they can like move around it and then they make the form. So it's usually it's carving. So 3D, so CNC milling is like you're carving something. And then with 3D printing, that's when you start to work with geometries that are like close mesh. And then you put it in your computer, and then the um when I did like 3D printing before, it's like with sandstone. And what they do, it's like imagine a big bathtub and it's full of um so the material is like a sand, and what it does is with a binder, it then like 3D prints your work, but it's with like a that material, and then but that is like with um a 3D mesh, so it's like a closed mesh, and then you get the thing after when that's done. So it's like building is 3D printing, and carving out, removing material is like CNC milling. So it's
Okay,
like
so
one is additive process.
the mystery is solved. Yeah, that's a lot of topics, but as I said, let's dive in for a while into what you did for Promenada, because one of the reasons we are talking right now is that your work will be presented at the Digital Art Space at Promenada Shopping Center in Warsaw. In fact, the premiere is just around the corner because it is now the morning of March 29th, and at 2 p.m. Your art will be presented for the first time in Poland. Obviously, you are listening this few days after, but just to commemorate this moment that we are meeting right before, we already know it's your first time presenting in Poland. What kind of story have you created for this event? The people who come to Promenada, what they will be able to see, to experience?
I think this is with them together we will journey. It's like a journey to imagined worlds. So there's 3 worlds. There's Milagro, Payapa, and Reverie. And so it's like for people to wander into these worlds that blend reality and imagination, um, like with people. And I think it's creating this for them. And I hope, like even with this, that it it gives them a moment of wonder, and a chance to be surrounded by color, by life, by different elements of like creatures that have been imagined. Because I really think art has a way of bringing people together. And I think what's even amazing is, I don't speak Polish, but you can see that art can connect people even if you don't speak Polish, even if you don't speak a certain language. I think there's something in the spirit that connects when you experience something, and I think that's the emotion, that's the um, that those are the feelings I'd like people to experience, whether it makes them spark their curiosity of what could it be, they explore something, and yeah, so I hope it really brings more people together. It brings people joy, and also invites them to see the world differently at a new perspective. Yeah, so I hope it's inspiring. And I hope they come to see and let me, allow me to share these worlds with, with each of you who will come and experience it.
Yeah, and how do you feel right before? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you like curious what will happen?
I think it's like butterflies in my stomach. Like, oh my goodness, it's gonna. I can't believe it's gonna happen like so soon already. I think it's like a mix of all the emotions. Because then I prepared something in Polish to say also. I hope I say it correctly. It's just like practicing, but I'm truly grateful. So even that is just something I can give and I can say, because I know people may not all speak English, but I want to share how thankful I am to be here and thankful that they came. They're gonna come to see it. It means a lot to me. So I think it's, yes, the feelings everywhere. Like, oh my goodness, excited and
Okay, so let's just, for a while, let's just bottle up those feelings because now it's time, Victoria, for you to give our listeners a task, an exercise of sorts. Because this is something that happens every time I'm conversing with someone. I'm creating podcast. I always ask my guests to give some task, something to do to flex the artistic muscles. So the stage is all yours. Give us something to do.
So I actually thought this through. We were thinking while we were walking around the old city yesterday with my sister, because she came with me here. And we were thinking that our listeners, we hope that you can look out your window and then look at the clouds and then draw what you imagine. When you look, what do you see? And then you draw what it is. And the other one is, if you look out the window and then you see someone walking, you imagine and you make a story about that person, like a little mini story of what you think they're doing, what you think their day was like. So I think those are our two tasks to flex your artistic muscles.
Okay, so let's go, everyone. Let's just, put on your work clothes and let's get to work. But maybe after a moment, because I still have few questions for you, or not few, maybe just the last one, because the last question is about what are you doing right now. Obviously, now you're in Warsaw and you will present your work, but what else? What's coming up in the near or distant future? What are your next steps? What are your plans? Where we can see you next?
You can see me next in Warsaw and Krakow. I will be next to Ola. I'll give you a hug and say, thank you, Ola. I think for my works, I think I will be integrating another thing that's actually close to my heart is music. I've always loved music, and my grandmother used to be an opera singer, and she used to sing with us, and she taught me singing. So I think actually, surprise, I not many actually know this yet, but it'll be combining music and my art together. So so that is what is next. So there's an incredible composer I'm working with, because then also an element of my worlds is that there's always music, because truly it's like even when I love music. I just love listening to whether it's like classical music, and then Chopin is also from here, which is amazing. And then I also love like jazz music, like oldies music, like my grandma's music. And then so it's like integrating like new music, but like singing into my worlds. So that is the next thing we are
and
working.
that is so. I just thought that I didn't ask you about that because I think it's also interesting. Because at the beginning you said you created something in the pandemic with your sister. She wrote something. Is it like you always create your world and someone is creating a music or the text for it? Or it's sometimes like that, other times it's just your world without music, without a sound. How is it?
So it's always so I work with so far it's just I work to make the world and then I incorporate music in it. But I also do collaborations. So that's when I do working with having different partnerships to then add like different elements to it. So with my sister, it's the stories, like original stories that was just for the pieces. And then also I have music. And then but my worlds always come because then I love it to be immersive. And the same way that it's in my mind, how I imagine it to be, I think music also speaks to our spirit. So it's having both. So all of my worlds have music. Unless there's no speakers in the space that it's going to be presented and it'll just be visual, but mostly all my pieces have music in it. So in my next exhibition, it will have me singing in it. So also, so then we will try to do that together. And then I'm also working with um collaborating with a very talented composer. He's based in London, so we've been planning and thinking since the end of last year what we can do for this year together. So those are the next steps, and then we'll see where next exhibition is.
Yeah, so should we just follow you on, I don't know, Instagram to
Yes,
be up to
Instagram is
date?
great.
Okay. So now everyone, you know where to find Victoria and where to look for information about her work. You can obviously visit Promenada in Warsaw. The exhibition will last at least 2 months. So you listening to this conversation probably in April, but if you listen in May, you can also go and still see Victoria's work. And if you listen it, I don't know, at the end of the 2025, then you have to just check out her website. Or check out her Instagram to see where she's currently exhibits her work. I don't know. I
That's
forgot all the
perfect.
English.
That is perfect. And I'll say dziękuję bardzo.
Oh, dziękuję bardzo. That was that was an experience. But thank you for this experience. Very happy to meet you. Very happy that I had a chance to do this.
Thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it. You're also a gracious host. So thank you. I'm also excited for you, and I hope that you spark even more meaningful conversations with your podcast.
Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to host someone who just is open and ready to talk about their work, because obviously sometimes it's very personal, it's very from inside of you. So I'm always very grateful to people that they are ready to share it and ready to open up, and sometimes with my crazy questions they are ready to just take a walk around the workshop and everything. So that's a wrap, everyone. Thank you, Victoria, one more time for your time. One more time for your time.
No, I understand, and it is perfect. Dziękuję.
Dziękuję bardzo za twój czas. It was a pleasure to talk with you. It was a pleasure to meet you. I hope one day we can see each other real life. Maybe at some of your exhibitions. That would be great. And thank you all for listening to our conversation. If you want to stay up to date on the Things All podcast, follow me on Instagram. And yeah, we're gonna hear each other soon. In the meantime, keep creating. Róbcie sztuki.
I need time.